Throughout the 1970s, the Emotions poured immaculate gospel harmonies into R&B hits, setting a new standard for female singing groups. And along the way, the ladies formed a memorable partnership with superstar 70s band Earth, Wind & Fire. That musical alliance wouldn't last though, shattering over issues of trust, money, and power, ultimately plummeting the Emotions' career and putting their sisterhood in jeopardy. The four Hutchinson sisters who would become the Emotions, Sheila, Jeanette, Wanda, and eventually Pamela, grew up with their two other siblings in a basement apartment on the south side of Chicago. Their mother kept the peace at home while their father hustled to make ends meet, from toiling in a steel mill to selling insurance. Growing up in that environment was a challenge, as there was major gang activity going on. The family stayed close though, and made sure the kids stayed on the straight and narrow. The girls' father, Joe Sr., taught them to sing at a very early age. As a member of a gospel group, he would have his daughters sing with them in church under the name the Hutchinson Sunbeams. While that sounds like fun, the patriarch of the family didn't play around when it came to rehearsals. He was very precise in his way of teaching them how to enunciate, breathing patterns, and how to captivate an audience. When they reached high school age, they changed their name to Three Ribbons and a Bow, and began recording more secular sounds for independent labels. Just before things really took off, the group decided to change their name once more to the one they'd become famous under, the Emotions. Their father approved since their singing did make people quite emotional. To help spur his daughter's career, Joe turned to Purvis Staples, whose own family singing group, the Staple Singers, had a contract with Stax Records. Soon enough, the Emotions also landed a deal with the label and headed to Memphis to record with producers David Porter and Isaac Hayes. The group released their debut album titled So I Can Love You in 1969. The title track, written by Sheila about an event that occurred at a high school dance, became their first hit, making it onto the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100 and rising all the way to number 3 on the R&B Songs chart.
So I can love you a little bit more.
The group's chart success had transformed the Emotions from a local gospel trio to budding R&B stars. But by the time they took their show on the road, a high school friend, although some reports refer to her as a cousin of the Hutchinsons, named Teresa Davis, had joined the group to replace Jeanette. Jeanette wanted to be married and have a family. So after she became pregnant, the other group members knew that they had to do something since she wouldn't be able to go on the road. The group dropped their sophomore album titled Untouched in 1971. The romantic ballad Show Me How rose to number 13 on the R&B Songs chart, followed by My Honey and Me, which went to number 18. A year later, the Emotions recorded a third album for Stax called Songs of Innocence and Experience. But as the label developed crippling financial problems, the record never officially released. Teresa's place in the group was also on shaky ground. While Joe said that he wouldn't let Jeanette come back, Jeanette told Teresa that she did have every intention of joining her sisters again. She ended up filing a grievance, saying that since she helped form the group, she deserved to come back. So with Jeanette back in, that meant that Teresa was out. The move, not surprisingly, left a bad taste in Teresa's mouth. By 1975, Stax Records would be no more as well, leaving the group without a home. So Joe signed his daughters to a new contract with Earth, Wind & Fire's Maurice White, who'd formed his own production company, Kalimba, which was affiliated with Columbia Records. The Emotions' third studio album, titled Flowers, dropped the following year. It rose to number 5 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart and went gold. The title track came in at number 16 on the R&B Songs chart, giving the group their 4th top 20 hit. With a new record label and a new album, the group had a second lease on their career, while forging a musical partnership with Earth, Wind & Fire's Maurice White. Wanda especially made the most of the union, writing over half the songs on Flowers, including one she co-wrote with Jeanette called I Don't Want to Lose Your Love. The track captured the number 13 position on the R&B chart and rose to number 4 on the dance chart. Wanda told the New York Times, "When we were at Stax, there were a lot of things we didn't have any say over. When we went with Maurice, he asked us how we wanted to sound. After he heard our songs, he put his own aside. Starting off that way, it made everybody comfortable in the group." The Emotions' partnership with Earth, Wind & Fire also extended to the stage as they began performing together on the road. Jeanette took her professional relationship with the guys to a personal level when she and Earth, Wind & Fire member Philip Bailey embarked on a romance that resulted in a love child. Her father and the record label weren't happy about it. Now she was going to need time off again. Plus, Philip also already had multiple children with his wife. Nevertheless, by the time the Emotions got back into the studio, Pamela would step up to take Jeanette's place. Wanda described her sisters to the New York Times in 1977, saying, "We're all different, but in a family group you get to know one another's limits and different moods. I'm the hyper one. If a show hasn't gone well technically, I go straight to the guy responsible. I'm also interested in the business side of things. Sheila is a heck of an actress. She can be really melancholy or happy, silly, all in one evening. Pam is kinda laid back and patient." Released in 1977, the group's fourth album, Rejoice, quickly scaled the charts, propelled in part by the ballad, Don't Ask My Neighbors. It became a top 10 R&B hit, coming in at number 7. But it would be another song off the album that would forever seal the Emotions' place in musical history. Best of My Love gave the group their first, and to date only, number 1 on the Hot 100 and R&B charts, and won the Grammy for Best R&B Performance by a duo or group with vocals. Rejoice went platinum, reaching number 1 on the R&B albums chart and number 7 on the Billboard 200. Then the group experienced a case of deja vu. Jeanette, after having another baby, was ready to come back to the group again. The label, though, wanted to stick with Pam. As a result, Jeanette and Pam would trade places in the group over the next several years. 1978 Sunbeam went gold, mainly on the back of the lead single and top 10 hit, Smile. The group would then undertake their ultimate collaboration with Earth, Wind & Fire with a track written about the dark side of the disco dream. Boogie Wonderland became a top 10 pop and R&B hit and went gold. It was also nominated for a Grammy for Best Disco Recording. Together, it appeared that the Emotions and Earth, Wind & Fire could do no wrong. It wouldn't turn out that way. While Boogie Wonderland helped propel Earth, Wind & Fire's album, I Am, to platinum status, it wasn't included on the Emotions' next album, a move that angered both the group and their father. As a result, the Emotions didn't receive record royalties for the recording of the song, setting off a legal battle that lasted for decades. Making matters worse, the Emotions' next album, 1979's Come Into Our World, was released on Maurice White's Arc label rather than Columbia, and the music pushed the group further into disco and away from their soul and R&B roots. At this time, Wanda began dating producer, keyboardist, and arranger Wayne Vaughn, best known for his work with Earth, Wind & Fire, and the two composed Come Into My World off the Come Into Our World album together. They married and continued to write songs as a team. After the Emotions' 1981 album New Affair didn't do well, the ladies decided it was time to take a closer look at their contract. What they discovered wasn't good. While it's unlikely that their father had done anything malicious, the group now realized that they had signed something that was actually detrimental to their career instead of beneficial. So, in 1983, the Emotions cut ties with their father as their manager, a move that divided the family. Wanda, Sheila, and Jeanette were all in favor of the decision, but Pam was not. Joe didn't take the news well, even going so far as to say that the group wouldn't go any further without him at the helm. As it turned out, he'd be right. The Emotions' next two albums, 1984's Sincerely and 1985's If I Only Knew, flopped. Their new management also brought along its own set of issues. According to Sheila, she was told that the group would probably get more gigs if she'd be willing to go to dinner or on vacation with certain people in the industry, alluding to her sleeping her way to the top, which she was not going to do. Around this time, Joe Hutchinson's health began to rapidly decline. In June 1985, he passed away from lymph node cancer. His death seemed to signal an end for the Emotions as well. Even though some of them were still working, the group started taking on different forms. They returned from their hiatus in 1990 to perform together for a reunion concert, this time as a four-piece. Sheila told Chicago Now, "We called it our togetherness show. I think it was the rebirth of the Emotions. It's just a really great feeling to be back out there after so long with my family." In 1995, Jeanette approached a college theater professor about telling the group's life story as a musical. The play was called Bigger Than Bubblegum. The process of putting it together helped the sisters heal old wounds. Over 3 decades later, the group's previously shelved album, Songs of Innocence and Experience, was finally released in 2004. Wanda, Pam, and Sheila continued to perform as the Emotions over the years. On September 18, 2020, Pamela Hutchinson passed away. She was 61 years old. An official announcement on their Facebook page read in part, "In loving memory, we are saddened to announce the passing of our sister, Pamela Rose Hutchinson, on Friday, September 18, 2020. Pam succumbed to health challenges that she'd been battling for several years. Now our beautiful sister will sing amongst the angels in heaven in perfect peace." Since then, the Emotions continue to tour with varying lineups, performing all their hits and giving their fans the best of their love.